introductions, and then we will get started with the question. I'm sure you know the routine here. My name is Jack Barlow. I teach politics here at Juniata College in Pennsylvania, and my fellow judges are Joe.
My name is Joe Stewart. I teach in the political science department at Clemson University in South Carolina. Welcome, relax. We're going to have fun today talking about the Constitution.
My name is Tim Moore. I'm from the Center for the Study of the American Constitution at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and it's great to be here.
And would you introduce yourselves and your teacher, please?
I'm Nicole Glennon.
I'm Monica Budzyna.
I'm Alivia Verasammy. Mrs. O'Brien is our teacher, and we are all freshmen from North Smithfield High School.
Well, welcome. I'm glad you could join us in this sort of unusual proceeding this year. We've not done it this way before, as you know, but you haven't done it this way before either, I'm sure. So we found yesterday that the technology works pretty well, so relax, enjoy it, and as Dr. Stewart says, we'll have a good conversation. So the question, this is Unit 2, right? And the question for today is question 1, and I'll read it and we'll get started. The states sent delegates to the Philadelphia Convention to join with other states, quote, in devising and discussing all such alterations and further provisions as may be necessary to render the federal Constitution adequate to the exigencies of the Union. To what extent, if any, did the delegates follow their instructions? What experiences of state governments under their new constitutions after independence might have influenced the creation of the Constitution? Do the decisions of the U.S. Supreme Court function as a continuing constitutional convention? Why or why not? You may begin.
After the Revolutionary War, George Washington and a few other individuals feared that their young country was on the verge of collapse. In November of 1777, the first American Constitution, the Articles of Confederation, was adopted into the Continental Congress. It was mainly written by Delegate John Dickinson for the purpose of creating a better connected union. Under this document, the nation failed. All the government power was given to the states rather than the national government, which resulted in the states ruling individually, acting as if they were separate countries. States had individual forms of currency, different ways of ruling, and even tried to ruin other states' economies by raising taxes on their exports. After a few years of living under the Articles, events like Shays' Rebellion solidified the need for a revised document, and a convention was called.
On May 25, 1787, 55 delegates from 12 of the 13 states met in Philadelphia. The citizens of the nation thought that the delegates were strengthening the Articles. However, upon introduction of the Virginia Plan, most agreed that the only way to fix the Articles was to create a new constitution. For months, they debated and made big changes, such as a stronger national government with 3 branches. The strengths and limitations of these branches were outlined in the first 3 articles, where it would be clear to the people that the new national government wouldn't be anything like Britain's. On September 17th, the convention ended and the Constitution was sent to the states and the people for ratification. However, there were some concerns about the new document. The nations split into 2, Federalists and Anti-Federalists, or those who supported the Constitution and those who opposed. The Anti-Federalists feared that it took away all the powers and rights that they had gained upon breaking away from Britain. To some extent, the delegates did follow their instructions. They strengthened the weaker parts of the Articles of Confederation, like allowing for taxation and a stronger military. It just happened to be on another piece of paper. It's what the delegates thought was the best thing for our country, and the fact that we're still living by this document almost 230 years later proves this.
After the U.S. broke away from Britain, a strong national government was a fear of many people. They believed there should be smaller governments closer to the people who can control it, shown by the weak power delegated in the Articles of Confederation. History taught people to believe that a republican government could succeed in only small communities where people shared common ideas and beliefs, which led to the adoption of state constitutions that outlined the state government structure. People also believed in the social contract, which stated that if the government was mistreating the people or not functioning properly, the people could revolt or break away and start their own form of government. The founders learned many lessons by studying the state constitutions. For example, many states like Massachusetts had their constitutions sent to the people for ratification. This exemplifies the social contract. It was incorporated into Article 7 of the Constitution. States also had legislative supremacy, which was close to the people but proved dangerous to many of the founders, such as John Adams, who instead created a government based on 3 equal and separate branches. This Massachusetts Constitution greatly influenced the U.S. Constitution.
Britain's ruling showed the U.S. that a national written document should be higher law, which is why Article 5 provides the amendment process. However, However, over time, people started to question if the Supreme Court acts as a modern constitutional convention. The Supreme Court is arguably the most powerful branch in American government. For over 200 years, the justices have been interpreting what the words of the Constitution mean. For example, in Obergefell v. Hodges, they interpreted that same-sex marriage is a constitutional right under the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. With their rulings, the Supreme Court today functions as a continuation of the Constitutional Convention. The convention was held so that we, the citizens, can practice the Founding Fathers' ideals about government. The Supreme Court gives their words modern meaning. There are many different ways to interpret the Constitution, including textualism, originalism, and modernism. For example, Justice Scalia was a conservative on the court, and he advocated for originalism. The rulings of the courts are constantly changing the meaning of the Constitution, just like the Founding Fathers intended. In this way, the Supreme Court is constantly rewriting the meaning of the document.
Thank you very much. So you talked a little bit about the lessons that the framers took from history with regard to popular government. I wonder if you could expand on that a little bit. What are the lessons of history with regard to Republican government?
One lesson from history that the founders kind of based their ideas off of was the British government that they had previously lived under. And in writing the Constitution, they sort of took all the aspects of that they didn't like and changed it to fit their new Constitution.
Additionally, they were greatly influenced by Rome, and Rome became a republic and collapsed, and that influenced their views on large republics.
Going back to what Nicole said, for example, they made the Constitution higher law specifically, so it wouldn't be changed just by changing or adding a law.
Also,
Talk a little bit more about that, if you wouldn't mind. How does making it higher law, what does it mean to say it's higher law, and how does that work exactly? How does that make it more stable?
Well, they decided to make it higher law, so everyone was subject to it, and that no one was above it.
in this part too, they were also going off of the British Constitution, which wasn't written down. So it wasn't really higher law because it wasn't written and it was easily changed.
Okay, thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about, I mean, you mentioned Federalists and Anti-Federalists. Let's talk a little bit about the Anti-Federalists. They had a lot of criticisms, certainly of the Constitution, but they also had some criticisms of the convention. What argument do you think makes most sense to you about the convention, not the Constitution?
I think that the convention was held completely in private is a good argument, because a democracy is supposed to be close to the people, and holding a convention that important in private, really, I don't think it sets a good example.
One may be that their orders were to strengthen the articles as they were, not rewrite a new document. So the Anti-Federalists would have been angry that they changed it that greatly.
Sorry, I had to unmute. 42 of the 55 people at the meeting were the people who had given those orders. They were members of Congress who had given the charge, in addition to what the states had given. Why do you think they went there with the plan of meeting in secrecy? I mean, why would, or did they just change their minds that quickly?
Well, upon arrival, they had the idea that they were just going to rewrite the document. But once the Virginia plan and similar plans were introduced, they all kind of knew that they had to rewrite it in order to make their government stronger.
Do you think anybody, I mean, did Madison go to the convention thinking he was going to rewrite the articles? I mean, he showed up with a draft of the Virginia plan, which clearly was not the Articles of Confederation. Did they have a hidden agenda, do you think? They're like, well, we're going to say that we're going to rewrite the articles, but we're really not. We have really no intention of doing that.
I think that it's possible that a couple of people could have gone with that idea, but I think that the majority of them would have thought they were just trying to rewrite it.
And I think that we can all agree that it's for the better that they completely rewrote it instead of trying to like fix the articles.
I agree with both Monica and Nicole. Since all 13 states needed to ratify something to get something done, and because even Rhode Island didn't even send any delegates, nothing would have gotten done. Anyways.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask that. I'm glad you mentioned that, Olivia. What do you think of Rhode Island's reason for not sending anybody?
Well, since they still are a very small state, I think they did like the articles because the states had power, and they could have been very wary of larger states or just the national government overpowering them.
Yeah, I was going to follow up on that point also about ratification. I mean, we tend to think of, as we look back, well, it was obvious we were going to get this, but was ratification a foregone conclusion? I mean, was it clear coming out of Philadelphia that this would actually be put into effect?
Right away, they didn't have that idea because of the sort of backlash that they got from the rest of the nation because they had learned that they rewrote it.
So there were obvious difficulties with ratification in a lot of states, and of course, Rhode Island didn't, and North Carolina didn't ratify right away either. How long do you think they would have waited for Rhode Island? Years? Decades? I mean, if Rhode Island still hadn't joined by 1815, you think they would have forced it to join? Oh!
We'll never know.
Good job.
Good job, you
job.
guys. Well, thank you very much. This was fun.